We are accustomed to listening to certain passages, but sometimes powerful words pass us by. This simple sentence is more than just a phrase. Courage, it is I. There is potentially the power of the tetragram, and it comes in the Gospel in a veiled form, but given the context in which he says this, it shows that it is in the back of our Lord's mind. He is exercising his authority as God, as he walks on the water and calms the waves. The first reading talks of the essence of God, defined just with this phrase which we are used to hearing but sometimes fail to unpack. God is love. In our time, we have a grace given to us by divine providence in the election of Giorgio Bergoglio, who has this essentiality of things. He is a man of heroic charity, and that already was there. If one looks into his life as a Jesuit, he was actually discreetly extremely kind. And this element of the extension of the vertical into the horizontal, without the accoutrements and unnecessary heaviness of complications, that is the essentiality of the gospel, is far better as an advert than the best pastoral program. I mean that one loves beings around us with the love of Christ in such a way that whatever else happens, the first encounter is positive. Unfortunately, in the name of professional Christianity, that has not always been the case. We know of the abuse of authority which went on, and actually might still be going on here and there, in the religious life. And also sometimes in hierarchical life, where, for instance, priests might not be handled with the delicacy which people need when abandoned in a culture which has become very hostile. We are very blessed on that level to have in our own Diocese of Meath a bishop who loves his priests and has time for them. But I want to zoom into one specific area this night, since we are handing over this home to the Lord. It is this fact that we are called to be, in some way, an extension of the love that made us. All the rest will follow if that is there. Let's start then from that end. It applies to all that we do actually when handling life, both in the vertical realm of the way that we handle God, because if love and relationship is there with Him, the rest will follow in the way we express it, e.g., prayer well said, liturgy well celebrated, the altar clean and tidy, and so on. So also on the horizontal hold, if we start from that element of aware that we are asked to look into that soul before me at this point in time with the regard of the Blessed Trinity itself, and to love that soul into being, and to respect it with its unrepeatableness, its individuality, its uniqueness, its mystery even, then the point will be made before any other point is made. The person will feel he or she exists, is honoured, is being given attention. The first delicacy to any soul that comes our way. And that is something which we can't switch off from, because it comes in so many unexpected ways. The way we handle even a text, that'll be felt by the answer or the non-answer that comes back. The extra bit, showing that it is a personal answer and that one is aware that a real person is at the other end. The same too in our encounters, e.g. on the professional level. There are ways and means of not wasting time in talking about the weather, but just saying enough to be in some way present to the other person as a human being and not a cog. In our daily life, we do not have to spend much time in preambles, e.g. the latest football match, but we can give that minimum space which makes all the difference. In Dulik, there is still the instinct when passing anybody in the street to make some kind of acknowledgement of that person's existence, even if it's only a slight contact of the eye. In inner Dublin it might not be the case because of the sheer numbers and impersonality of the situation, but it is still there in rural Ireland. People are people, not ants. And so that element actually, which is still there in this nation somewhat, that people do tend to have an extra word for each other, is not to be lost. And one can make of a person's day, another person's day, something a little bit more joyful by the unexpected, e.g. witty remark. It's a little thing, but it brings a little smile and an element of joy to an otherwise blue day. But I want to attack one point linked with this particular reading from the Gospel, which also we can link up with the reading from St. John. We notice that when the Lord comes to the boat, there is a great calm. One of the greatest delicacies that we can show to other souls is to give them the delicacy of not being heavy beings. There are already sufficient heavy beings out there without adding to their number. Actually, it just occurred to me surprisingly and unexpectedly the other day. I had a young person with me in the Hermitage for a while, and I had noticed something I had forgotten about that person in the past, that the way in which her character reacts to things could be taken as an object lesson. Whatever the stress might be in the air, there was an unperturbed calm, a incapacity, it would seem, to change mode or to raise the voice. Just a handling of an unexpected situation which actually showed that the situation was not of cosmic dimensions, relativizing things, and thereby showing that the quality of the atmosphere was more important than the otherwise huge thing which might take the attention and bring down the joy. And I thought to myself, that lesson I would take with me. Life is rather like that. Because if one is exposed to a certain number of people who might not be that way, it can happen, for instance, in a monastery where you might be enclosed with people who would be perhaps of another culture, who might be quite volatile sometimes. It actually is a counterbalance, that that's not the only way to react to life. That to be exposed to a person who is calm all the time is a huge blessing and lesson, something to be taken with us on this short journey through time, because many people don't cop on to the difference between the essential and the accidental. That is, they take of the accidental the essential, and everything functions in virtue of it, and therefore becomes dysfunctional if it is not functioning. A pity. So maybe at the beginning of this year we can take that with us, because it applies also to the way that we receive the mystery of another being coming to us. If we come to that person, giving that person the awareness that there is not stress meeting him, but a cushion of calm, that will be an invitation to unload. The space of a silent listening and an awareness without a huge amount of fuss or bother can be a great source of healing in itself. The person can feel, perhaps for the first time in many years, I matter to somebody. Also, with regard to the way that we come into prayer mode, that same element of being unruffled and, I say, calm, can be cultivated in such a way that we do not need an awful lot of agitation or activity in prayer to be worked upon, even in a short time, by one word. Prayer is essentially happening when there is encounter happening. One can be for quite a long time in prayer, but not encountering. It's the danger with a large amount of vocal prayer. Chant has the advantage of creating an atmosphere where the engagement can happen gently. A large amount of hurried vocal prayer, not sung, can be heavy on the mind and therefore on the soul, and obstruct rather than aid gentle listening and encounter. It's the same on the human. Too many words block out encounter, and calm and well-chiseled words listened to and not sent too heavily are more deep in their effect. So I maybe just share this, which I found by chance today. I had written in retreat just before making my perpetual vows in Italy, in another monastery, because we used to make the retreats in a nearby monastery to get away from their own monastery, and they used to send theirs to ours. It was the mother house of the Olivetti and Benedictines. And so I found this word, which I wrote on calm. I'll give it to you now, but it was on that element of coming to the end of a retreat in silence in a cloister which was dedicated to the contemplative life, and being aware, as one made one's vows, that that was the mode in which to live it out, taking that retreat of utter calm until the last day of one's life, rather than rushing through life, always in hyped up mode. Calm in retreat before perpetual vows. There is no need to talk upon a tone too high that it be heard. A word is not a better for its din, nor do we own the ear that turns away, for soon forgot was all not wanted well, was all that was not worth the pause that held it. None shall learn a lesson yawned, and scorned is all that has no spark to bid us mark at something burn. We have heard all before, nor is there room for sound in well-bound knowledge? We know all we need to know below, and none to whom a word ungathered calls shall it recall. And oft we trouble to shed louder light, that softer giving kept more dimly bright.